Wildfires devastated large swathes of central and southern Chile this February. Hundreds of thousands of hectares were affected. At least 24 deaths were reported. Record summer temperatures and changing winds caused the wildfires to spread. The government called a state of emergency and requested international help to contain the situation. These fires highlighted the vulnerability of Chile to climate change. This, as the country is in the grip of an ongoing mega drought. 2022 was the 14th consecutive year of drought in Chile. It is a drought that is transforming the landscape of this South American country.
Me llamo Francisco Javier Martínez Rubilar, soy de acá de la zona de Aculeo, ya llevo más de 30 años viviendo acá, yo tengo 33 años. Y cuando vine acá a la laguna, yo estaba chiquitito, tenía como 8 años, y tenía harta agua la laguna. Y me venía a bañar con mi familia, a entretenerse uno, pero ahora con la laguna seca, ¿quién va a venir uno para acá a ver la laguna? Solamente piscina ahora no.
Lake Aculeo used to be a popular summer spot for families from the capital Santiago. As well as shifting climate patterns, Javier says it is the unregulated use of water by farmers that led to this lake drying up, and he sees the social and economic impact as well.
Aquí hay 35 camping, de los 35 quedan 4 camping nomás, no quedan más.
A pier leading to nowhere, a stranded boat. These are snapshots of one of the longest droughts on record. Chile has been suffering a mega drought for over a decade now. By 2019, this lake to the south of Santiago had completely dried up. Last year did see higher rainfall across the country than in recent years. Greenery during the winter months gave a sense that the drought was no longer so urgent. The issue dropped down the public agenda as the pressing political issues of a country under new president, leftist Gabriel Boric, were under the spotlight. Yet Chile is facing a water crisis. The World Resources Institute ranks water stress across the globe. On their ranking, Chile sits only below desertified nations of the Middle East when it comes to the acute level of water stress facing the country. Chile's capital, Santiago, announced an unprecedented plan, water rationing for some 6 million people. Operating on a 4-stage system, at times of the most severe lack of water, cuts of up to 24 hours could be introduced. This will rely on the amount of water in the Maipo and Mapocho rivers that flow down from the majestic snow-capped Andes Mountains overlooking the capital. Yet it is not only low rainfall that worries experts.
Chile tiene más del 80% de los glaciares de Sudamérica en la cordillera de los Andes, pero esos glaciares son una reserva. No son un recurso en el sentido técnico de la palabra, ¿no? Porque un recurso es aquel que se va recuperando, que se va manteniendo en el tiempo con los sistemas naturales, digamos. En cambio, la reserva es algo que se agota, es como una cuenta de ahorro a la cual tú después ya no le sigues aportando.
Francisco Fernando Acuña is a retired hydrology professor at the University of Chile. He is alarmed by what he sees.
No podemos hablar de que si antes era, supongamos, el glaciar que tenía una pérdida más significativa del orden de un retroceso de 1 metro por año, hoy en día tenemos glaciares que están retrocediendo 10 o 15 metros por año.
Chile's glaciers are irreparably losing snow and ice, and with less rainfall across the country, there is the question of where the country's water will come from. Yet in addition to Chile's mega drought, there are also human factors at play in Chile's water crisis. Scientists determined the drying up of Lake Aculeo was not only down to water scarcity caused by climate change, but also how the resource is managed. In Chile, water is privatized under a unique regulatory system. The 1980 constitution, drafted by General Pinochet, was followed in 1981 by the Water Code.
The fact that they are so close together shows how important water is. We all know water is important, but how you regulate, how you manage water is critical. And that model, based on a very free market liberal model, was the state gave water extraction rights to individuals or companies based on their claim that they could use it effectively and efficiently. Unfortunately, that system doesn't work. It doesn't work for various reasons. One is that the people who argued that they needed this for agriculture could then rent those rights or sell those rights. So they were given something for free, and then they could sell it for high value. And when you think about drought, as there's less water around, the value of those water rights rises. So it's become a tradable commodity effectively.
Agriculture accounts for the largest use of water in Chile, but the country's economy is founded on mining and in particular the export of copper. Chile also forms part of the so-called lithium triangle, along with Bolivia and Argentina. Lithium is a vital mineral for batteries, and demand is soaring as the electrical vehicle transformation is underway. Along with forestry and salmon fishing in the south, these are industries that place added stress on an ecosystem that is lacking water.
So the big water user in Chile is agricultural systems. Chile has a long time wanted to be this big agricultural exporter. It still is, and that's the big push. But how do you do that when most of your valleys are in water deficit? So there's a bit of a contradiction between the National Development Plan in that sense and the actual resources you have.
This industrial activity led to economic growth that saw Chile hailed for many years as a rare success story in South America. Yet the 2019 social uprising unveiled a widely shared feeling that Chile's economy was not working for everyone, that the very system and constitution enshrined inequality, and that inequality is also found in the access to resources such as water. The effects of this mega drought can be seen and felt across the central region of Chile. We travelled a few hours north of Santiago with water activists Evelyn Vicioso and Emiliano Olivares to see the effects on local communities. They introduced us to Mirta Gallardo.
Yo fui la primera persona que vivió acá, en el llano. Igual me emociona a veces cuando me recuerdo, mis hijos, por ejemplo, ya hoy día tienen 20, 22 años. Y ellos siempre me decían que si yo era muy floja, que por qué yo tenía todo seco, por qué no plantaba planta, y por qué acá, verdecito, ellos veían. Y entonces yo siempre lo vi que era como una humillación, era como una discriminación que el mismo Estado me hacía en que ellos pensaran de esa manera. Hoy día, después de grande, pudieron entender esa desigualdad que vivimos el ser humano con el agua, pero ellos de chico pensaban que yo por floja no sembraba, no cultivaba, no tenía nada, y acá porque ellas eran inteligentes o porque tenían no sé qué cosa, tenían verdecito.
Now in her 60s, Gallardo has campaigned for greater access to water since the age of 16. She lives in a community of subsistence farmers.
Cuando llueve, lo primero que hacemos es con toda la fe, ya sea con tractor, con maquinaria o a caballo, empezamos a arar la tierra para sembrar el trigo, sembrar la cebada para los animales. Es nuestra única forma que tenemos como para poder tener nuestra siembra, porque no tenemos acceso al agua.
This community hoped for rain in order to plant any crops. And yet next to them is a vast avocado farm.
No somos propietarios de acciones de agua y en que delindamos con los vecinos ellos y que produzcan palta y produzcan todos los días del año con el sistema de tecnificación. Ellos tienen acceso a todas las acciones de agua que ellos le necesitan sus cultivos.
Gallardo believes it is not only the lack of rainfall and the ongoing mega drought that is the problem facing her community.
Yo creo que el problema más agudo no tiene que ver con la sequía. El problema más agudo que se da es que se ha hecho un uso indiscriminado de hacer pozos profundos. Y como no hay una fiscalización de cuánta es el agua que saca, no hay una planificación del territorio. Aquí lo que manda es el bolsillo, económicamente. Cuánta plata tengo, cuánto poder económico tengo, es lo que voy a ser capaz de colocar lo que se me antoje, sea un producto que el que consuma más agua, da lo mismo.
Up until January of this year, Evelyn Vicioso was the director of the Nuenco Foundation that lobbies for the sustainable and fair administration of water resources. She points to this glaring contrast.
Entonces, tenemos contradicciones como laderas completas de paltas que se exportan a Europa, China o a Oceanía, y al lado zonas de personas que no tienen agua para bañarse, para ir al baño, para beber, que tienen escuelas sin abastecimiento de agua potable.
Authorities say there is progress in preserving this resource. After 11 years of debate, in 2022 the Chilean Senate voted in new legislation for water.
Por primera vez se prioriza el consumo humano, el saneamiento y la subsistencia de las personas. Es un vuelco generalizado a cómo hoy día estamos pensando en la administración del recurso agua. Todo el tema del agua es trascendental a todo el aparato económico del país y por lo tanto los usos que se hacen respecto del recurso agua tienen que conversar también en cómo el Estado prioriza el abastecimiento de la población sin desmedro, ¿cierto?, de su modelo económico también.
Chile's economic model remains under debate. In September last year, Chileans voted against rewriting the country's constitution. This is something that had been the demand of the protests that began in 2019. In December, Congress reached an agreement to start work on a new constitution, but Chileans feel distanced from the political class.
Tenemos un sistema absolutamente deslegitimado y fragmentado que no responde al problema actual que tenemos hoy día, de ser uno de los países más afectados de Latinoamérica con la sequía y con la escasez. Y hoy día tenemos una crisis que nos amenaza en los grandes centros urbanos, que puede generar un conflicto social mucho más grande que el que tuvimos en octubre del 2019 si no tomamos las medidas. El país necesita con urgencia una política hídrica, que no tiene y que no ha logrado ponerse de acuerdo.
And there is a sense that the wider population's attention lies elsewhere.
When you look at the priorities of people, and in Chile at the moment with economic crisis, inflation, new constitution, it is important, it's a concern, but it's not top of the agenda. So it's very difficult to make climate change and water stress top of the agenda, and particularly in a country where 90% of people live in cities, so they don't actually see the water as such. So they're concerned about the price, but not where it comes from and the use necessarily.
Higher temperatures and low rainfall have led to plans for water rationing in the capital city Santiago over these summer months as Chile's mega drought continues.